wanted to see what would happen. Because the first two videos, were completely shut down. The fourth video, I was allowed to have the viewership, but then the comment section got shut down. Sweet sauce. And now this try, we'll see what happens. We'll see if they allow this to happen. And actually, I want to talk about what I originally intended on talking about, which was the Nation of Islam. Because that shit is crazy. If I pull up the Google, this is what happens, right? It says, James Uthmeyer, Florida Attorney General. Mahmoud Khalil ICE detention release. NHL retirement, Nick Bonino. James Boasberg, American lawyer and jurist. Isn't that weird? What it just happens to talk about? I'll go. I saw you replied to some of my Facebook posts. What are your thoughts on that? Elijah Muhammad. Morning. What's up, dude? Good morning. Dog woke you up? Mm-hmm. Finally, good afternoon, I should say.
What time?
11:11. Let's see what happens here. So we were reading this, and we're going to just read. I'm just going to jump ahead because I don't feel like... So Elijah Muhammad, born Elijah Robert Poole in Georgia, blah, blah, blah. The seventh of 13 children. His education ended in 4th grade after he went to work in the sawmills and brickyards. Man, you want to talk about a crazy conspiracy. Just look up bricks. Look up the history of bricks and brickyards and all that shit. Where all the bricks came from. The creation of bricks and how the whole thing, you're talking about making producing over 1 million bricks per day. It's like 1,000 bricks per minute or some shit. It's just the numbers are insane. And they don't make any sense. Elijah married Carla Evans, March 17, 1917. The Poole family was among hundreds of thousands of black families forming the first Great Migration, leaving the oppressive and economically troubled South in search of safety and employment. Elijah later recounted that before the age of 20, he had witnessed lynchings of 3 black men by white people. Moving his own family, parents, and siblings, Elijah and the Pooles settled in the industrial north part of Hamtramck, Michigan. Through the 20s and 30s, he struggled to find and keep work as the economy suffered during the post-World War I and Great Depression eras. During their years in Detroit, Elijah and Carla had 8 children, 6 boys and 2 girls. Must have been struggling something fierce, huh? While he was in Detroit, Poole began taking part in various black nationalist movements within the city. In August 1931, at the urging of his wife, Elijah Poole attended a speech on Islam and black empowerment by Wallace Fard Muhammad. Wallace D. Fard. He's known by like 10 different names. Afterward, Poole said he approached Fard and asked if he was the Mahdi Redeemer. Fard responded that he was, but that his time had not yet come. Fard taught that black people, as original Asiatics, had a rich cultural history which was stolen from them in their enslavement. How, if they were so powerful and all that, did they get enslaved in the first place? Fard stated that African Americans could regain their freedoms through self-independence and cultivation of their own culture and civilization. And, don't forget, submission to him. Poole, having strong consciousness of both race and class issues as a result of his struggles in the South, quickly fell in step with Fard's ideology. Poole soon became an ardent follower of Fard and joined his movement, as did his wife and several brothers. Soon afterward, Poole was given a Muslim surname, first Karim, and later, at Fard's behest, Muhammad. He assumed leadership of the nation's Temple No. 2 in Chicago. His younger brother, Khalat Muhammad, became the leader of the movement's self-defense arm, the Fruit of Islam. Fard turned over leadership of the growing Detroit group to Elijah Muhammad, and the Allah Temple of Islam changed its name to the Nation of Islam. Elijah Muhammad and Wallace Fard continued to communicate until 1934, when Wallace Fard disappeared. Never existed. If I show you the picture of the guy that supposedly created the black Muslims, the Nation of Islam, you tell me, does that not look like Netanyahu's kid? Seriously. Especially that middle image. You tell me that's the guy that started the black Muslims? Ugh. The Nation of Islam was started by this guy? And notice these are his police photos, of course. You have to be kidding me. That guy looks just like a young Netanyahu. Even the goofy part. You know, the comb over from the center, from the far, that left side of his face. You could be onto something. You don't think I am here? You explain it some other way. Seriously. That doesn't look like Netanyahu. Here, let's look up. You're telling me that's not the same face. Here, let's do this. I gotta fucking pull it back up. Alright, so those giant ears. Alright, so this is Netanyahu. And that's him. Shit. God damn it. Let's try it like this. Netanyahu, Wallace Fard Muhammad. Netanyahu, Wallace Fard Muhammad. Netanyahu, Wallace Fard Muhammad. Netanyahu, Wallace Fard Muhammad. Don't you think that's weird? Don't you think that's fucking weird? And then this is supposedly his kid. That's black Muslim guy. Yeah. The young Netanyahu pics. That's the guy who invented the Nation of Islam back in. So okay, so I gotta read it, I guess. Wallace Fard Muhammad, or W.D. Fard, reportedly born in February 26, 1877, disappeared in 1934. Oh, actually, he was older than that. So if he was born in 1887, 23, plus another 30 years, so he was 53 years old when he just supposedly appeared out of the blue. He arrived in Detroit in 1930. 53 years old. Where the fuck was he? With an ambiguous background and several aliases. Oh, he was known, other names, Wali, W-A-L-I, Fred Dodd, or Dad, Wali Fred Dad, Fred Dodd, Fred the Greek, Fred the Turk, Wally Dodd Ford, Wallace Dodd Ford, William D. Fard, Master Fard Muhammad. Those are all of the names he had, and he only really existed within a 4-year time period. Arrived in Detroit in 1930 with an ambiguous background and several aliases, and postularized syncretic Islamic teachings to the city's black population. His group taught followers to abandon their old slaves' names. Like this is the definition of brainwashing, of cult. You know, you take people's names away, you take away people's identities so you can give them new ones. Matt, good afternoon. His group taught followers to abandon their old slave names in favor of new names that were bestowed upon new members by him. Fard's movement similarly taught black pride and black expansionism, saying that the black man is the original man, and teaching that the white race were devils created by eugenics. In the 30s, like how when you think about the 1930s, are you thinking about like, you know, real good at science kind of people and shit? The group preached abstinence from drugs, alcohol, pork, and out-of-wedlock sex. If you want to talk about submarines, like I always say, go watch the first 9 parts, see what you can debunk, and shut the fuck up. Stop trying to change the subject, you dumb fucking cowards. After one of Fard's followers performed a human sacrifice, Fard was briefly arrested, but the police ordered him to depart Detroit and not return. Yeah, that's how that works. Instead, he continued to return to the city, where he was spotted by police. In 1934, after repeated arrests and death threats, Fard left Detroit and ultimately disappeared. Elijah Muhammad succeeded Fard as leader of the Nation of Islam, blah, 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 blah. Fard's origins are uncertain, as Fard variously identified as white, black, Spanish, Arab, Afghan, and on one occasion, Jewish. Only one occasion. Only on one occasion. Canadian scholar John Andrew Morrow describes Fard as a racial and ethnic chameleon, noting Fard lived in one of the most vicious racist societies in the world, America. The conditions in which black people and indigenous people lived here were horrific. Segregation was severe, bigotry abounded, white supremacy permeated everything. Lynchings were a daily occurrence. These were columns there were columns in newspapers titled "Today's Lynchings." Fard witnessed unspeakable horrors committed by genuine devils. Why would Master Fard pass for white? Who wouldn't? In 2025, scholars Kevin Morris and Anton Bailey uncovered a ship manifest showing that a man listed as Walid Dad Khan, another alias that just doesn't get brought up, traveled from Hong Kong to San Francisco aboard the SS Kopik in 1907. The book presents extensive evidence linking this individual to Wallace D. Fard, making a compelling case that they are in fact the same person. To this date, this is the earliest known document connected to W.D. Fard. Yet, you know, when it comes to the people that they want to know everything about, we know who their parents were, who their grandparents were, what day they were born, you know, what they did for a living. We know about jobs they turned down and all this other bullshit. But yet when it comes to the leader of the Nation of Islam, yeah, we just don't. The earliest known document of him is supposedly a completely different name, some 30 years after he was supposedly born. And it's coming out of Hong Kong, of all places. That sounds totally right, right? Military guy. Ooh, military guy. You must be smart if you're a military guy. You should change your name to Bad Guy Land Puppet. As a military guy, you fight for Bad Guy Land. And I don't mean the U.S. On his World War I draft card, Fard identified as a citizen of Afghanistan, born in Shinkai. Many scholars argue that Fard may have been from the Indian subcontinent. Fard reportedly spent time at the Ahmadiyya Mosque, a movement prominent in Pakistan, used translations of the Quran from Pakistan, and bestowed Pakistani names on his followers. Fard's teaching of the tribe of Shabazz may have been tied to Pakistan's shrine of La Shabazz Qalandar. Some speculate Fard was a Turk or a Greek. He had been known as Fred the Greek and Fred the Turk in 1908. Some claim Fard was a white man, perhaps from New Zealand. You mean his wife. Fard indicated that background in records from 1920. In 1924, when he married a woman of Spanish ancestry, Fard claimed that he had been born in Madrid, Spain. Less popular theories of origin suggest that he may have been Syrian, Moroccan, Bosnian, Albanian, African American, or Jewish. Fard was traditionally held by the Nation of Islam to be an Arab from Mecca. What's crazy too is that what you'll find is supposedly just random newspaper articles that talk about this different person each time, but somehow it's the same guy. But somehow these random newspapers, these random articles were documented for all of historical purposes. We can't find any real information on them, but these random news articles, pretty fucking silly. Have you seen the submarine museum in Chicago? Yeah, well, if there's a bunch of submarines in a museum, that must make them real. You know, it was one of my favorite parts about going to Greenfield Village here in Detroit. When I was a kid, I used to love to go to the futuristic part of the museum, where they'd show a bunch of different models of what cars and airplanes and, whatever was supposed to look like in the future by 2025. So did that mean those were real things because I saw them in a museum? Is that how that works? It's real because it's in a museum. Duh. So stupid. And you have to love how almost immediately, within 5 minutes of going live, military guy got here to argue about submarines. Yeah. All these same fucking profiles, same dumb people, same speech patterns, same everything. Refuse to go to the first 9 parts and just debunk what I'm saying. You know, it'd be pretty easy to do. I lay out all the arguments. I actually try to convince myself that they're real, and I can't. And then my wife, who's an even bigger skeptic of damn near everything I do, she was like, come on, you can't say this one, that's crazy. And I said, well, let's look and find out. And she actually believes that, you know, something isn't right here. Do they have boats that the majority of the boat can go underwater? Yes. Apparently they've had that since 1620, when the first submarine was created. Drebel was the first guy to create it. I forgot his first name for some reason. I want to say Isaac, but it's not Isaac. But he was said to be able to make it thunder and lightning on command. And then you hear all the stories about the first, like all of the first stories of the submarines, other than the early, like 1600, they all failed. They just failed and 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 failed, and then suddenly they had them. And they just worked. And since then, the United States has never had a submarine disaster. The United States military never had a submarine disaster. Interesting. But again, you could go have these argument with me in a different page. You don't have to try to hijack this one and stop us talking about this. Here's Mike. I've noticed that I've seen SWAT trucks ever since COVID, but never before. You might not have noticed. But yeah, they're going to bring it back this year. It's going to be called Sears, SEERS. I mean, all you Trumpanzees, I hope you liked being locked down, because he's going to do it again. It's just weird how the Trumpanzees seem to forget it and want to blame Biden for locking us down. Yeah, but have you been, like, when did you cross over that line where you were like, I'm a believer, Trump supporter, and now I'm suddenly not? Because I'm pretty sure that you were, you know, a good boy prior to COVID, right? So you just wouldn't have noticed it. But what you will see nowadays is that even the smallest town police force has military-grade weaponry and military-grade vehicles nowadays, somehow. Like, it's really just insane what's actually happening. All right, prior to his time in Detroit, Fard operated a food cart and later a restaurant in Oregon and California. In 1908, we still just keep going with 1908, papers in Eugene, Oregon announced that a local tamale vendor, Fred Waldad, this is yet another name, had acquired a small house on wheels to use as a food cart. Now imagine that. A newspaper in Eugene, Oregon, which is actually a pretty big community, is announcing that some guy has a food cart? What sense does that make? I never believed or really questioned submarines as a child. I understood it made no sense that they can withstand the pressure from the ocean. No, I'm not saying just the submarine thing. I just mean in general. In general, you were a good boy prior to COVID, right? Prior to Trump. Trump is what sort of let you down and opened your eyes, right? I mean, I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But we have yet another person who is claimed to have been on submarines. Within 20 minutes, we have multiple people who are just scouring the internet looking for people talking about submarines so they can come in and tell us that they've been on them. It's fucking silly. It's silly. But this is what they do, and we're supposed to believe it. Oh, yeah. You've been on submarines. Gotcha. It's funny, too, how they never seem to know anything about submarines. They never they never seem to be able to explain anything or, you know. And if they can, it's just the basic shit that's so easy to debunk. I'm going to be going to the beach here someday soon. And when I do, I'm going to take a 2-liter with me. I'm going to put the top on the 2-liter. And I'm going to show you how difficult it is to sink that bad boy to the bottom of the lake. Whether I'm, in water up to my waist or whatever, up to my chest or above my head. We'll see how easy it is to sink a 2-liter. A 200-pound man. See if I can sink a 2-liter. And yet you believe that all the submarine has to do is just put some water inside of it. The ballast tanks, maybe 5% of the submarine's entire capacity fills with water, and that makes it so they can sink down. I bet you believe that airplanes have 68,000 gallons of jet fuel in the wings, huh?
Well, her texts have been...
That makes sense too, doesn't it?
And not threatening, but...
Once Trump said there were bombs in the building in 9/11, but never spoke of it again. Yeah, well, he's a company man. He says what he's told to say. It's really interesting how well Trump does that, where he says what people want to hear until he gets his way, and then he just changes it completely. I mean, again, it's the thing you never understand with the Trumpanzees. Do you not remember him saying that he was going to cut the gas and food prices? That he could end all the wars with one phone call? Do you guys remember him saying these things? And now we're about to be, taken into war to fight for bad guy land. It has nothing to do with us. And it's literally Netanyahu's wet dream. Netanyahu's the one that keeps pushing the narrative, lying, and has been saying the same bullshit lies for years. There are videos from 2005 where Netanyahu is claiming that Iran is weeks away from having nuclear weapons. We need to get involved. We need to bomb them immediately because Iran has weeks away from nuclear weapons. Put in Netanyahu and Netanyahu Iran nukes compilation pops right up. Looks like there's a lot of people looking into this shit, huh?
Probably heard this line before.
Iran has never given up its quest for nuclear weapons and the missiles to deliver them.
That's because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying this for more than 30 years, claiming Iran is close to having
nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons. Atomic bombs.
In 1992, as a member of parliament, Netanyahu addresses the Knesset. He says, within 3 to 5 years, we can assume that Iran will become autonomous in its ability to develop and produce a nuclear bomb. 3 years later, in his book, Fighting Terrorism, he repeats the same time frame, 3 to 5 years.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Fast forward to 2002. Netanyahu testifies before a U.S. congressional committee actively calling for the invasion of Iraq.
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
The two nations that are vying, competing with each other, who will be the first to achieve nuclear weapons, is Iraq and Iran.
The invasion happens months later. No weapons of mass destruction are found in Iraq. This is a fragment of a 2009 U.S. State Department cable released by WikiLeaks. Netanyahu tells members of Congress that Iran is 1 or 2 years away from being capable of developing nuclear weapons.
They're online.
It's 2012, and Netanyahu is holding up his infamous cartoon bomb at the UN General Assembly.
By next spring, at most, by next...
They are so dumb that they think this is what it is. right? This is how dumb they are. This guy thought that holding up this fucking goofy ass sign was like an intelligent move.
Summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment.
Look at
and
his
move
dumb
on to the
fucking
final stage.
poster.
From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb.
And now, 33 years after Netanyahu's first so-called imminent warning, Israel attacks Iran.
And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
That's despite the US Director of National Intelligence saying Iran isn't building a nuclear weapon months earlier.
Iran lied.
But for Netanyahu,
Big time.
the slogan has been the same for decades. Dmitry Medvedenko, Al Jazeera.
That's fucking crazy, man. It's
This
just
week's
crazy.
strikes exemplify Israeli Prime Minister opinion.
It's just crazy. It's crazy that anyone believes that man or thinks he's like that man is a horrible human being. And especially all of you non-bad guys, he hates you. He doesn't respect you or like you or, you know, you American. He doesn't like you. He hates you. He thinks you're goyim fucking nothing trash. So this person says, well, perhaps it's this, perhaps it's that. No, it's not. It's not. What's more likely? That it's just lies and bullshit, or it's some crazy intricate plan and blah, like, it's just lies and bullshit. No, we haven't stopped them from doing shit. Iran isn't, it's not like, but the thing that most people don't understand is that Iran and Trump were in talks already. Like, Iran had already agreed not to make a nuclear weapon. The head negotiator from Iran was killed in the first bad guy land strike. Like, it was punishment. Your buddy Trump supposedly went, worked it out that there was going to be no aggression or anything like that. And the main guy, bad guy land, was able to target him from thousands of miles away with a rocket fired from a drone that they tracked him into his hotel room. The drone hit where he was sleeping, through the walls and where he was sleeping. That's how sophisticated their tech is. Yet they have to keep bombing schools and hospitals and shit because of these supposed tunnels that they never actually find. This is just the fucking most insane bullshit. And of course, the bot profiles are here. And they're saying a bunch of stupid shit, but they're not actually debunking anything. And you would think, like, I'm sure a bunch of these profiles claim to be, good red-blooded Christian Americans, this, that, and the other. Yet, for some reason, this foreign bullshit, because it involves Israel, makes sense to you? Yep, they were in talks, then blah, didn't get any coverage. Right. It's at the end of the day, any of you that are actual shills, that are the people behind the profiles, if you're not bad guy-ish, they're gonna kill you. They don't like you. It's not, like, this is not, there's nothing good coming out of this. And the thing is, all of this Iran stuff is basically a cover-up now at this point for Palestine. Because there's a lot more coverage on the Iran situation because Iran fought back than there is with the Palestine stuff. And that's, you know, that's saying a lot. And there's the standard American comment, let them fight, this is their fight, blah, blah, blah. Well, if that's the case, then we need to go and take back all of the weapons that we gave one side of the fight. All the weapons, all the ammunition, all the money, we need to get all that back before you can say, oh, just let them fight it out. See, none of your dumbass logic makes any sense. It's just stupidity that, you know, like Charlie Kirk kind of stupidity that they hope that you aren't smart enough to get through. Where's Palestine? It doesn't exist. That place doesn't exist. It's called Judea and Samaria. Like, it matters what the fucking place is called. But that's how they trick you. They get you involved in these circular bullshit arguments where you're like, what? Obviously Palestine exists. It's on map after map after map. Especially prior to 48. Right? Like, there's the whole Nakba 48 bullshit, 46 bullshit. There's all kinds of shit that proves it existed. It was British mandate Palestine from World War I up until 1948. It was an actual place, very much an actual place. But they try to get you in these arguments that just you end up just going in circles. Well, no, that's why we're on different planets. Because I don't think it's a place. He's such a weird, like he's literally looks like one of those, I hate saying it, but those pinheads from the 20s and shit, you know, the freaks that had the fucked up brains, and they were very, very poorly treated and all that shit. But he looks like one of them. The top of his head is like yarmulke size. But he's just as dumb as it gets, and it's so silly how people can get drug into that shit instead of, like, again, it doesn't matter what you call it. You could call it fucking, you know, Tatooine for all I care. There are children being genocided there. There's a fucking genocide taking place. Wow, that's like, we've gotten to a really, really desperate point here where now I'm an alien reptile. Instead of engaging in what's being said, now I'm an alien reptile. That's how bad it is. That's how much they cannot argue what I'm saying, so they just say dumb shit. Oh, now he's Brandon the hobo. He was the ugly hobo, but that wasn't working for him. And absolutely, I deny the holocaust. For sure. You know why? Because the evidence doesn't support the argument. But hey, who likes evidence? Pfft. Who wants evidence? Pfft. Understand, my grandfather is supposedly a Holocaust survivor. Was Polish. Because, you know, although you're not supposed to understand or know this, it definitely wasn't just the bad guys that were supposedly in the Holocaust. The Polish were a big part of it too. But the you know, I also believe that my grandfather was Project Paperclip. And that takes it into a whole different place. But for world domination, yes, that's the problem. Good morning. Afternoon. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good.
I'm evil. Oh. And I somehow don't realize it. Yes, that must be it. You know, what we're experiencing is the most well-documented, well-publicized genocide ever. Like, actually provable. Not a whole bunch of claims by a whole bunch of people who are gonna then get, you know, get paid for the rest of their lives because of the bullshit. Oh, here we go with the schizophrenia and the bong. Again, it's like they're so stupid and they're so arrogant that even when they're corrected, they still can't, you know, the programs are just so stupid. Anybody that calls this a bong is a fucking idiot. Like even non-smokers don't call pipes bongs. You know, it's just fucking stupid. But they're too arrogant to change their mind, to change their wording. It's or the whole schizophrenia thing. Like, they don't even understand. They're not even using the right mental illness. Schizophrenia is when you multiple personalities and you know, you're talking to your shoulders and shit. Nobody's doing that, but this is all they have. Think about it. There are all these different fucking goofy profiles here, not one of which actually addresses anything being said. If I'm wrong, why not just address what's being said? Why resort to name calling and foolishness and, you know, making up narratives and all this other bullshit? Why don't you just say what's wrong? That's not right because, right? Yeah, because meth addicts smoke out of pretty pipes. And all those big meth blunts that I smoke all the time. Yep. It's just so funny. It's look at the desperate narrative. Everything that comes through, all these comments that come through, not one of them, you know, denounces genocide, denounces pedophilia, denounces slavery. They don't talk about any of that. They're very well motivated, but it's not to you know, talk bad about these things that they seemingly, well, that they obviously support. You know, if this page is stated purpose is to end the cult and essentially end the pedophilia, then why aren't they in support? Right? Pots of a feather. Look at all these dumb topics. Look at all these dumb topics. Look at all these dumb changes of topic. They're trying to talk about anything else. Anything else, because they can't deny the genocide. Well, they can, but they can't deny it with any sort of factual evidence. They can't deny that we should get rid of the cult. They definitely can't provide any evidence as to why we should continue to accommodate the cult. You know, and you never see it. They are horrible at acting, so how did they control Hollywood? Because they allow us to you know, if you pay attention, a lot of the actors, it's just like the president, right? The president is a goyim for the most part. But he's completely surrounded by them. You know? And so you have these narratives where, you know, they might let a goyim be the star, but everybody surrounding them isn't. And when all of the shows have the similar tone to them, you don't realize just how bad it is. Like, look at All in the Family, right? Carol O'Connor is the only one who isn't a bad guy. And the thing is, one of the brilliant aspects of what they've done is they try to say it's a slur, a stereotype, to say that they have lots of money, power, and control. And most of you were like, yeah, whoa, you can't say that. Why? That's a compliment. They make up 0.183% of the world's population and 2% of the US population. For them to control the money and the power and have all, you know, have all the control, like, that's an incredible accomplishment. But they have you believing that that's on the same levels as saying, you know, black people steal or whatever, you know. That's how they've tricked us. That's how they've manipulated us. And one of the things that they've done is they've created the dumbass goyim. You know, like the whole idea of the hillbilly and the redneck. They created that. That wasn't a thing. You know, when bluegrass music first took off, and they used to have the radio stations that could broadcast across the entire country, the bands came down from New York, obviously, where, you know, they live, and they wanted to play bluegrass because that was where a lot of money was being made. But the handful of controllers wouldn't let them, and this, you can look at, like, Ken Burns made the documentary about this. This is where I got this information from. It, not some made up bullshit that I came up with. Ken Burns, he fucking, you know, this documentary is on PBS. But it talks about how they wouldn't let these classically trained musicians be bluegrass guys unless they would put on overalls and mess up their hair, put some eye black on their teeth, and become the Soggy Bottom Boys. And that's just how that worked. They created the redneck. You know, you go look up the Beverly Hillbillies. The Beverly Hillbillies, all bad guys. The Hee Haw. Hee Haw is one of the longest running sketch comedy shows of all time, and then just TV programs of all time. Literally created the redneck. And they're all bad guys. All of them, but like a couple. You know, this is how they work. This is how they've done it. The cement pond. Who would say cement pond? That's a lot more to say than the pool. Why wouldn't you be able to adjust yourself and say the pool? No, you have to go watch the movie Hollywoodism. It's on YouTube, and I'll have a link to it here at the end of the feed. It'll be in the description. Hollywoodism flat out tells you exactly what I'm talking about. That's weird.
You wrote a book in 1995. It didn't mention the fact that he pledged.
Wonder why that just started playing. Wow, this is really strange. This phone is just suddenly acting on its own. Okay. You know, they controlled everything. Hollywoodism explains how. It doesn't explain how. It explains that somehow they just controlled Hollywood. They just had the technology, controlled Hollywood, built these major studios, all this shit within no time at all. It just sort of happened. And then they ruled through nepotism and an iron fist. There was a movie made, not a long time ago actually, starring, I can only think of, he's been in so many movies, but I'm thinking of him in Rounders. You know, where he's the J voice of reason. He's the good one. He's in tons of movies. He's such an ugly guy, and he's in tons and tons of movies. Got this goofy fucking overbite and shit. But he's young at this point, and he's a young bad guy writer being interviewed by one of the Hollywood moguls. And the Hollywood mogul's like, ha ha ha, yeah, we run this town. We run it with an iron fist. I'm the baddest ass K-word in town, and nobody's gonna step up to me, kind of shit. He says it. This is they put this movie out. The thing about Hollywoodism is, if anyone else made a word-for-word remake, and instead of saying us and we, said they and them, it would be panned as anti-Supremacism. That's anti-supremic. Those are anti-supremic tropes. You can't say those things, that they controlled Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. But they say it. That's why it's so brilliant to watch it, because they actually acknowledge all of the stereotypes, but way more so in saying that they used Hollywood to create the America that they wanted. From government to history to whatever it is, they controlled it using Hollywood. One of the women says, you could essentially say that the American dream is the bad guy dream. It's really fucking crazy. This is true. I paused the live just to read the comments at this point. He's just babbling to himself. Yes, just babbling to myself. Because what I'm saying isn't real, isn't legitimate, isn't scary. No, it's just babble. It's just fucking crazy babble. Telling you the truth about who controls Hollywood. Telling you the truth on how they view us. All that kind of shit. Never mind that. It doesn't matter. I'm just crazy. You would think if I was so crazy and so wrong that they would just be able to address some of it. Right? You would be able to just address any of it. Oh, we've got another person randomly claiming that they were on a submarine for months now. Oh, you gotta love it. Cornelius Drebbel, that was the guy. Cornelius Drebbel made the first submarine in 1620. I couldn't remember his name. Go look him up. You want me to do it for you? Want me to hold your hand on this one too? I'll hold your hand. Ready? Let's see. Cornelius Drebbel. Cornelius Drebbel. He's one of these guys. Cornelius Jacobzoon Drebbel was 1572 to 1630, was a Dutch engineer and inventor. He was the builder of the first operational submarine in 1620 and an innovator who contributed to the development of measurements, control systems, optics, and chemistry. He was just that guy. He did it all. Let's see. Cornelius Drebbel. Now, see again, we don't know about the history of the guy who founded Islam, the Nation of Islam, but we're going to know this. Cornelius Drebbel was born in Alkmaar, Holland, in an Anabaptist family in 1572. After some years at Latin school in Alkmaar, around 1587, he attended the academy in Haarlem, also located in North Holland. Teachers at the academy were Hendrik Goltsevis, engraver, painter, alchemist, and humanist, Karl von Mander, painter, writer, humanist, and Cornelius Corneliuszoon of Haarlem. Drebbel became a skilled engraver. Drebbel became a skilled engraver on copperplate and also took an interest in alchemy, the thing that's just not a thing anymore. Oh, we've run out of stuff to say, so we're going with schizophrenia again. Yep, schizophrenia is reading to you. In 1595, he married Sophia Jansdotter Goltis, younger sister of Hendrik, and settled down at Alkmaar. They had at least 6 children, of whom 4 survived. Drebbel worked initially as a painter, engraver, and cartographer, but he was in constant need of money because of the prodigal lifestyle of his wife. In 1598, he obtained a patent for a water supply system and a sort of perpetual clockwork. Gee, that's weird. Perpetual clockwork, huh? 1598. In 1600, Drebbel was in Middelburg, where he built a fountain at Newderpoort. Built a fountain now, too. He's a fountain builder. In that spectacle-making center, he may have picked up the knowledge in the art of lens grinding, and later would construct a magic lantern and a camera obscura. Oh my goodness, what a great guy. Magic lanterns, inventing lenses, and man, this guy is amazing. Inventing the telescopes and shit. Around 1604, Drebel family moved to England, probably at the invitation of new King James I of England. Well, that's just interesting. He was accommodated at Ethlem Palace, because he was just invited to live in the palace and then did. He was accommodated. Drebel worked there at the masks that were performed by and for the court after the masques. I don't know. He was attached to the court of young Renaissance Crown Prince Henry. He astonished the court with a demonstration of a perpetual motion machine, automatic and hydraulic organs, and his optimal instruments. Gee, you've heard about this guy, right? You've heard about this guy. Right? Doesn't that make sense? Perpetual motion machines and shit like that. Oh, who cares? Perpetual motion machine, what? He went through the courts of Europe in October 1610. Drebel and his family moved to Prague on invitation of the Roman German Emperor Rudolf II. Oh, now he's going from a different one. Who was preoccupied with the arts, alchemy, and other sciences. Here again, Drebel demonstrated his inventions when, in 1611, Rudolf was stripped of all effective power by his younger brother, Archduke Matthias. Drebel was imprisoned for about a year. Well, that makes sense. After Rudolf's death in 1612, Drebel was set free and went back to London in 1613. Because, just moving around the countryside back then was easy to do. Totally makes sense, doesn't it? Unfortunately, his patron Prince Henry also died, and Drebel was in financial trouble. Always these guys are in financial troubles. With his glass grinding machine, he manufactured optical instruments and compound microscopes with 2 convex lenses for which there was a constant demand. In 1613, awesome. At the request of Roman German Emperor Ferdinand II in 1619, at another one of these emperors is just requesting his services, even though he's broke. He went to Prague again to tutor his sons and was taken prisoner after the Battle of Whitehouse and the capture of Prague in 1620, where he also lost his fortune again. In 1622, Constantin Huygens, he's the guy that invented the telescope, stayed as a diplomat for more than 1 year in England. It is quite possible that he learned the art of glass grinding at this time from Drebel, and that he passed this knowledge to his second son, Constantin Huygens, who became a prominent Dutch mathematician and scientist. The English natural philosopher Robert Hooke may have learned the art of glass grinding from his acquaintance with Johannes Sibertus Kuffler, the son-in-law of Drebel. Oh, yeah, glass grinding. Toward the end of his life, in 1633, Drebel was involved in a plan to drain the fens around Cambridge while living in near poverty, running an alehouse in England. He died in London. In keeping with traditional Mennonite practice, Drebel's estate was split between his 4 living children at the time of his death. Drebel was an empirical researcher and an innovator. His constructions and innovations cover measurements and control technology, pneumatics, optics, chemistry, hydraulics, and pyrotechnics. He registered several patents with the Dutch Staten Generaal And he also wrote essays about his experiments with air pressure and made beautiful engravings, including the 7 liberal arts on a map of the city of Alkmaar. He was involved in making theater props, moving statues, and in plans to build a new theater in London. He worked on producing torpedoes, naval mines, detonators, and used glass Bavarian tears, or detonators that used glass Bavarian tears, and worked on fulminating gold as an explosive. Fulminating gold. He was known for his perpetuum mobile, built an incubator for eggs, and a portable stove oven with an optimal use of fuel, able to keep the heat on a constant temperature by means of a regulator thermostat. He designed a solar energy system for London, perpetual fire, demonstrated air conditioning, made lightning and thunder on command, and developed fountains and freshwater supply for the city of Middelburg. He was involved in the draining of the moors around Cambridge, the Fens, developed predecessors of the barometer and thermometer, and harpsichords that played on solar energy. Get the fuck out of here. This is one guy. I can't even stop reading it. Drebel's most famous work was a short-term treaty of the nature of the elements. Haarlem, 1621. I mean, he had to be busy day and night, all day. He was also involved in the invention of mercury fulminate. He also discovered that mixtures of spiritus vini with mercury and silver in aqua fortis could explode. Drebel invented a chicken incubator and a mercury thermostat which automatically kept it stable at a constant temperature. He's just inventing just everything. How, what techniques, all that, how he came, we don't get to know any of that. One of the first recorded feedback control devices, the constant temperature thing. He also developed and demonstrated a working air conditioning system. The invention of a working thermometer is also credited to Drebel. The story goes that while making a colored liquid for a thermometer, Cornelius dropped a flask of aqua regina on a tin windowsill and discovered that stannous chloride makes the color of carmine much brighter and more durable. Although Cornelius did not make much money from his work, his daughters Anna and Katharina, and his son-in-laws Abram and Johannes Stiglitz Kuffler set up a very successful dye works. One was set up in 1643 in Bow, London, and the resulting color was called Bow dye. The recipient for color Kuffleranius was kept a family recipe, and the new bright red color was very popular in Europe. Optics. Drebel is credited with developing an automatic precision lens grinding machine, improved telescopes, the first compound microscope, camera obscura, lantern magica, and Dutch or Bavarian tears. I mean, are you serious? You're lucky to invent one thing in your life. This guy has invented everything. One of the optical devices some historians believe Drebel invented when he was working for the Duke of Buckingham, we didn't hear about that part, was the compound microscope. The device appeared in Europe around 1620. Man, 1620 was his year, with the earliest account being Dutch ambassador William Borel's 1619 visit to London, where he saw a compound microscope in Drebel's possession, described as an instrument about 18 inches long, 2 inches in diameter, and supported on 3 brass dolphins. In 1620, Drebel had a compound microscope with 2 convex lenses. 1621, sorry. Several of his contemporaries, including Constantin Huygens, credited the invention of the compound microscope to Drebel. The invention has many counterclaims, including Dutch spectacle maker Johannes Zachariasen claimed that Drebel stole the idea from him and his father, Zacharias Janssen, and claims that Galileo Galilei used his telescope after 1610 as a type of compound microscope. In 1624, Galileo saw Drebel's design for a microscope in Rome and created an improved version of it to send to Federico Sessi, founder of the Accademia di Linnisi, who cited it to illustrate Apium, a book about bees. Submarine, here we go. Look, the first navigable submarine. There it is, there's a picture of it. This must have been before they could paint well. He also built the first navigable submarine in 1620, another 1620 invention. These aren't all like inventions that involve the same kind of thing, and he's just sort of inventing another thing based on it. These are all completely different things. By the way, if this is interesting to you, like, share, and sub. If this makes sense to you, like, share, and sub. If you think this is crazy, like, share, and sub. He manufactured a steerable submarine with a leather-covered wooden frame. Between 1620 and 1624, Drebel successfully built and tested 2 more submarines, each one bigger than the last. The final, third model had 6 oars and could carry 16 passengers under fucking water. This model was demonstrated to King James the First in person and several thousand Londoners. The submarine stayed submerged for 3 hours and could travel from Westminster to Greenwich and back, cruising at a depth between 12 and 15 feet. Drebel even took King James in this submarine on a test drive beneath the Thames, making King James the first monarch to travel underwater. The submarine was tested many times in the Thames, but it couldn't attract enough enthusiasm for the Admiralty and was never used in combat. The military at that time saw that this guy invented a ship that could go underwater, carry 16 passengers, stay submerged for 3 hours, was safe enough that the king took it, and they couldn't see any sort of military advantage to it. So the next submarine wasn't built until like 100 years later, 120 years later. Because that makes sense, right? How does this make sense to you guys? How come none of you have heard of Cornelius Drebel? How come he's not considered one of the greatest men in all of history? Telescopes, camera obscura. You guys think the camera was invented in the late 1800s, so mid-1800s sometime. This is the camera obscura from the 1620s. The lantern magica from the 1620s. Telescopes, submarines, all different sorts of chemistry, thermometers, barometers, microscopes. Like, are we fucking serious here? Do you guys not see how insane all of this is? Why haven't you heard about this guy? He could make it thunder and lightning on command. What? What the fuck are we talking about? Making moving statues. I mean, When you understand that somebody this incredible supposedly existed and has been kept from you, why do you believe anything you're told? I mean, seriously. Personally, I don't believe it. I don't believe he's a real person. I don't believe anything from the 1600s. I think something happened in the late 1800s, maybe even the late 1700s, early 1800s. Some sort of reset, and the bad guys who are now committing genocide, right, as we speak, inherited the control mechanism and have been, slowly letting us have little bits of technology as they see fit. Like, I don't know how many of you are my age or older, but I'm 46. So I remember when in 1989, the military announced that they had stealth technology. And the stealth bomber and the stealth, there were a few different stealth warcrafts. They were like everywhere. They were the coolest things ever. And it turns out that they had stealth technology since at least the 40s, but maybe even the 30s. And then you think about all of the UFO sightings that have existed where somebody saw some sort of strange wing shape object. And you think, well, as they let us have technology, it explains a lot of the things that were unexplained for a long time. Now that we have drones, and you and I can go buy a fucking drone that can fly who knows how fast, I'm not a drone guy, but incredible drone, would fly all over, take amazing pictures and all that shit. You and I have access to that for like $100, maybe a little bit more, I don't know. Again, don't know drones. And drones can do the thing where they fly just If you've ever gone to, instead of a fireworks display, you've gone to a drone display, you've seen it happen. Where drones can do these incredible things. Well, clearly they've had drones for a lot longer than we have. And now that we have drones, along with stealth, man, that sure does answer for a lot of the UFO shit people have said have seen over the years. ChatGPT, I always wondered, because I had such a hard time believing history, but I always wondered, how did they manufacture so much of it? How would you have done that? How did you write so many volumes of history? Well, now that we have ChatGPT, and again, something that they've had for a lot longer than we have, it totally makes sense how they created history. They programmed the computer with certain amounts of code words. And it shows their laziness, which is why so many of the historical figures have the same names. Or so many different inventions are attributed to one person. Because they didn't bother making it as detailed as they could. And the ChatGPT program they had just spit out the history. By the programmed parameters. They've clearly been lying to us about everything. The fact that the guy that invented that's the founder of the Nation of Islam, the black militant Muslims, looks like Netanyahu? Looks just like a young Netanyahu? That doesn't trigger something in your head that something's wrong? And the thing is, the most important aspect of this for you is that you need to let go of your arrogance. And I know people will say, oh, you're the one that's arrogant. You're the one that's arrogant. No, I'm confident. You're the arrogant one that thinks they know which things are good and which things are bad, which things are true and which things aren't. Most of you believe in Jesus, but not, like, you think that you get to decide which parts of the Bible you're going to believe and follow and all that shit. You believe you know that your beliefs, whatever you do believe in, is the right thing. And what those billions of other people believe, that's wrong. But you know the difference. Because, you know, your parents made you think that way, that your society made you think that. You didn't look into any of it. None of you Christians out there know the Bible history or Christian history or anything like that. None of you know any of that shit. You just believe it because you don't want to make your parents mad, because you've been tricked into believing that there's a hell down below us where the devil lives with his pitchfork, and he's kind of a gay guy in a suit with a mustache. He's got a pitchfork. You know, at the end of the day, people believe what they want to believe. You literally have no evidence for damn near anything you believe in. You've maybe seen it on TV, or you've heard about it, but you don't have any evidence for it. And you've had lots of different options presented to you, and you've chosen to focus on certain ones. That's it. This one makes, I like this one. I like the way this one sounds. This one says, as long as I follow the rules while I'm alive, as long as I allow the chosen people to rule my life while I'm alive, no matter how bad it sucks down here, as long as I follow the rules and I keep my head down and I keep contributing to the delinquency, then I get to go to heaven when I die? Okay, that makes sense. My life sucks, so I want to believe that it's going to get better when I die. When I die. That's how fucking brainwashed you are. You don't think that this life is this beautiful, amazing thing that we should all be living to its fullest. You think, you know what? I'll just put my head down. I'll work my 40, 50, 60 hours a week. I'll say my prayers and take my vitamins, and, you know, and when I die, then the real party starts. Then I'm going to go hang out with Jimi Hendrix. Like, it's fucking silly. And the best part is, again, you all pick and choose what you believe, because your Bible flat out tells you shouldn't be having any sort of sex, not just sex outside of marriage, but sex outside of procreation. You're only supposed to have sex for procreation purposes. And every single one of you has not only had sex outside of marriage, you've had sex for more than procreation purposes. You've had sex hoping no procreation took place. Because you don't like that part. You pick and choose. You don't like that part. Any of the women that dare come on here and say anything, well, you don't like 1 Timothy 2:12 or 2:11. Says, let no woman have authority over man. I command them to stay silent. You don't like that part. Look, they froze the comments again. Interesting how they always freeze the comments, seemingly around the same time, too. What do you suppose is happening? I guess I'm just wrong, huh? I guess I'm just wrong, and oh well. There's just a genocide. Oh, no. I guess we aren't frozen. It's just a genocide taking place. A lot. It's two separate words. A-L-L-O-T is a word, and that means to allot something, to you know, you're planning for something, so you allot for this many people to be there. You know, that's what allot means. A lot of Christians believe that Jesus and God are the same person, which doesn't make any sense because that's not what it says. But see, a lot of Christians don't know what their fucking Bible says. If they did, they sure wouldn't believe the earth is a round ball flying through space. The Bible, you know, the very first thing God does, I always ask, and nobody ever responds because none of them know. What's the very first thing your God does after it turns on the light? Because it doesn't, you know, it doesn't make the sun and the moon until the fourth day. So not sure how we have 4 days anyway. But the very first thing your God does after it turns on the light is creates the firmament, the indestructible dome, keeping the waters of heaven, away from the earth down below, so that the land can dry up and yada yada bullshit. Indestructible firmament, undeniable as far as the Christians go. Mentioned 16 or 17 times or some shit in the Bible, and yet most Christians are unaware, and most Christians believe that the James Webb Space Telescope is providing some really pretty pictures. You're crazy if you think we went to the moon. We went to the moon with God's help because we're God's people. It's goddamn ridiculous. It really is. Just insane how clearly and easily manipulated we are. And we fight for it. Like, we don't fight against it, we fight for it. It's called the Holy Trinity. And God tells us explicitly in the Bible that Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit are the same thing. Yeah, that's what it is. So God came down, impregnated the virgin with himself. And then, versions of him, because everybody's God's people. God created everything. Then was persecuted by itself, killed by itself, and then it zombified and came out by, it's just such stupid shit. It really is stupid shit. The whole Passover thing is, again, it's like ritual bullshit where they put blood on the door so the angel of death passes over their house, goes after the goyim. If Jesus was God, why would it be screaming at himself and asking, oh God, why have you forsaken me while on the cross? That's such a great example. The Bible was clearly made for a bunch of people a lot dumber than we are today. You're not supposed to be able to have that level of common sense. You're not supposed to have like the internet so you can look things up and, see if things work or whatever. It's just so stupid, man. Having the moon is a major reason why life is able to form and thrive on Earth. Without the moon, we wouldn't be here. Says some doofus based on what he was told. Oh God, is a reference to the Psalms verse where it shows that truing God is real. It's all just dumb. It's all dumb, chosen fairy tale bullshit. The Bible is not for Christians. It's not about Christians. Several times in the Bible, they mention the Gentiles as separate people from who the main story is about. They also talk about we several times in the Bible. There was a time when there was no moon. Right, and Tiamat so I love this theory, right? That the earth was hit by another object, shattered, some of the debris formed the moon and then formed this perfect circle, while the earth reformed in this other perfect circle, and that's why we have the moon. Hey, why does everybody else have moons? What about Jupiter with its fucking giggity-plex moons? What about Mars with its 2 moons? All that is just the same story over and over again? Oh, it's so stupid. But see, again, this is that arrogance that people come at you with, right? That you know, they read somewhere that without life, without the moon, life on the moon, on Earth wouldn't be possible. And yeah, based on what? Who the fuck knows? It's also stupid. Science is just another religion, presented to you by people in funny coats who are infallible, can't be questioned, live a prestigious, privileged life, and, you know, you just better regurgitate that shit, or else you get to get made fun of. People get to attack you. Oh, read the quote where Jesus says that slaves should obey their masters as they would him. Read that quote. It's just so dumb. It's just so dumb. Well, let's hear where you think the moon came from. Duh. Because I sit here and waste time thinking about where the moon came from. Come on now. So stupid. I don't even know what the fuck it is, let alone sitting here pretending to know where it came from. NASA's repeatedly said we can't leave low Earth orbit. So how the fuck did we used to know how to get to the moon, but now we can't? Remember when Trump said we would go back? Remember, I think it was by 2025 he said we would go back. But yeah, it's always like that. They're always talking that bullshit. Christianity is a slave religion. Think about it. Like, okay, so in your own religion, you believe that the bad guys in the Bible, the ones that killed your superhero, because Satan isn't the bad guy in the Bible. The bad guys in the Bible are the ones that kill the superhero, who also happens to be your Christian God's only kid, and they are your Christian God's chosen people. So if you're not a chosen person, then what are you? You believe that you are second class in your own religion. Do you know how ridiculously stupid that is? Again, if you're not chosen, what are you? It's either the chosen or the slaves in the Bible. So that must make you a slave, right? One of the 2,800 slaves that each of them are supposed to have. Just think about how stupid you have to be to think that way. You're not even the number one thing in your own belief structure. Who would willingly do that? Query of likely to refer to the controversial claim found in some interpretations of bad guy text, particularly the Talmud, that suggests each bad guy will have a large number of Gentile slaves, sometimes stated as 2,800 in the Messianic era. So when the real Jesus finally shows up, then each one of them gets 2,800 Goyim slaves, Gentile slaves. Do you like, that is not some theory, that's in their main book, the Talmud. They want you to believe that the Torah is the main book, but it's not. The Talmud is the main book. The Talmud is the Fight Club. We don't talk about the Talmud in the Talmud. But they actually believe this. And you can see there's plenty of them that have been interviewed since all this bullshit started, that say, yes, this is coming toward the Messiah is coming, and we will all have our 2,800 slaves, and like, it's crazy. What's up, man? Same old same. Right? And then this Christ frees us from sin. Why are we sinful? Why are we born sinful? Do you understand how crazy that is to think that there's something wrong with a baby? Especially thinking there's something wrong with it, so you should cut it off. But thinking that babies are born in sin and that Christ died for our sins and we should be thankful to this bad guy who died for our sins. And I mean, it's just such utter obvious slave bullshit. You are a slave to your sinful interpretations. Yeah, because it's me that says all this shit, right? It's me. It's not your dumb belief structure. Love how you forget to acknowledge the fact that if you're not a chosen one, what are you? Or how the Talmud states that they are allowed, that if anybody has sex with a child, they should be killed, any Gentile. But if they have sex with a child, as long as she's 3 years and 1 day old, the raper has to pay the family the full dowry, and now she essentially belongs to him. Sort of like a wife, but, you know, more of a slave. Because women just don't fucking matter in that shit. Women's only job is to produce more men. But they actually address it. They actually address pedophilia, and it's not shamed. It's not, you know. There's a great example of it that actually was caught on TV, and people just don't think about it. But TCAP, To Catch a Predator, when they caught that guy, Jeffrey Sokol, the guy that sat there and ate the pizza, ate it seemingly like he didn't care, like he didn't think he would get in trouble, like he knew he wouldn't get in trouble. Like he must have been such an important person that it really wouldn't matter. But they talk about how he had suggested a marriage contract. And when it was brought up, he was like, oh no, it's just nothing. He was willing to talk about everything else but the marriage contract. Because the marriage contract is one of their things. You know, once they have sex with the girl, the virgin, that virgin now belongs to them. The Talmud says horrible things about Christ. Who do you think gave you your Bible, doofus? What do you think? Who do you think is this the Bible's about? Who are all the people in the Bible that that each of those stories is about? Lot and his, wanting to give up his children to the rape mob and then having sex with his daughters, but he didn't know because he was drunk. And then the kids that they had, the two 12, 13, 14-year-old daughters that had a kid with their 90-plus-year-old father, those two became the leaders of the Moabites and the Islamites, or the Islamites, or something like that. The Moabites supposedly being the original, like the black people are the descendants of the Moabites, is what one of those black Muslim groups that came together to form the Nation of Islam. That was one of their teachings. Is it that one? All those stories are about these random chosen people who are able to build God phone altars and have conversations with God, who usually tells them, well, if you go walking over that way, everything you can see now belongs to you. So go tell all those people that I said, this is all your land, and now your name is going to be something different. It's literally just a bunch of chosen nonsense. And when especially the most adamant Christians, that they don't actually know their shit. that they don't actually read it. Because if they actually read it, they would understand what's being said. The whole thing with Job, another one of them, that God punished to prove something to the devil because the devil snuck into a meeting with God that this group was having with God, and the devil snuck in among them. And as soon as God saw the devil, he was like, hey, buddy, hey, look, see that guy down there? Hey, devil, see that guy, Job? He worships me. And the devil essentially tricks God. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, if you didn't give him such favor, he wouldn't like you anymore. And God's like, oh, yeah, I'll prove it to you. You could do anything you want to him. Just don't kill him, and I bet he still likes me. And the devil kills Job's family and takes away all his. Job's one of the richest, most powerful men in the region. And the devil takes so much of it away, like half of it away from him. You know, kills his children and does this and does that. And Job's like, well, God giveth and God taketh away. Oh, well. And everybody's like, Job, why aren't you forsaking God for what he's done to you? And he's like, God giveth and God taketh away. That's where that shit comes from. And so the devil sneaks back in again, and this time God's like, see, I told you he'd still worship me. And Job's like, yeah, but he still has his health. So God's like, okay, just don't kill him. And Job is now stricken with like boils and shit, boils that he scrapes off with broken pieces of pottery. That's how bad his life is, and he loses everything. And I mean, it's just awful. And he still won't forsake God. And there's these three of his friends come up, and they're hanging out with him, sitting there for hours, days, weeks on end, having this like, you know, chosen steam room conversation where it's like, well, why don't you forsake God and move on? And Job's like, well, why should I forsake God? He gave me so much. You know, I lived such a good life. And this just goes on for like 42 chapters. And it's fucking ridiculous. But it's definitely not Christian. Seek and you will find it. I love when they say dumb shit like that. God is the All-Father and we are all God's children. That would be like my kids coming up to me and being like, Dad, we're hungry. And I'm like, well, find you some food. I don't know how you're going to eat. Find your food. You know? Dad, this crazy guy is chasing us and he's threatening us. Oh, well, you need to get away from him. You need to figure it out. Figure it out. Yeah. You better do what I say or I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you and send you to jail. Die in hell for all of eternity. It's so fucking stupid. And at the same time, you know, what most Christians don't seem to realize is that a lot of Palestinians are Christians. And it shouldn't even matter what they believe in. The fact that they're being genocided, that children are being starved to death, that bombs are being dropped on people who live in a tent, that you as a good Christian don't stand up to this? You what? Well, they don't believe what I believe, so, you know, fuck them. Those stupid children, they should have been born to different parents, I guess. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing how stupid you are. In the 2,000 years since supposedly Christ existed, that 144,000 spots still hasn't been filled up. I mean, the whole Revelations bullshit, it really is just the dumbest shit in the world. And again, in Revelations, they mention the Gentiles as a separate group, not part of the main story. It's just fucking crazy. It's crazy. I do a video, a live feed, where I condemn pedophilia, genocide, and slavery. And yet there's all these random profiles that seemingly disagree. Isn't that amazing? They always want to change the subject. Never want to acknowledge the genocide taking place. Never want to condemn the pedophilia. None of it. They just want to talk about the stupidest things. Anyway, go get your free download, www.the-bilderberg, BILDERBERG-group.com. It's free. It'll ask you how much you want to pay. You click 0 and it's free, or we collect donations. You could donate. We appreciate all those who have donated. Thank you. You can give as much money or as little money or no money as you want to, and you get all the access you can. You get all of it. All we ask is that you share it with someone. There's also going to be a link to Hollywoodism, which is the most important film ever made. You should. Between the story of eternal charity, yeah, I should watch something else. Blah blah blah. Shut the fuck up. Not gonna watch any two people that are put on TV and think that they're telling some sort of secrets. You have to be pretty fucking stupid to think that anything that you know of, anything that you have access to, and that other people it's presented to you. Like, you have to be stupid to think that it's allowed to have hundreds of thousands of views because it's telling secrets. This is just such stupid, obvious nonsense. If you watched the interview between somebody and they made all these good points, make the good points then. Don't tell me to go watch the interview without making points that make me go, oh, wow, that's really interesting. Let me go check that out. Anybody can say anything. Go watch this, go watch that. But make some points. I challenge you to look up anything I've talked about. Nobody will. You know? Yeah. You should go watch this one thing, yeah. And I'm going to make the points for why you should watch it, dumbass. It's the most important piece of film ever made because it's them bragging about how they've created Hollywood and they use it to control us. Religion, history, politics, all of it is their control, and they used Hollywood to create it. And they make the movie. It's not like it's somebody outside, some outsider making the movies, and then you could, oh, those are just tropes. Those are anti-Supremacism tropes. Nope, doesn't work that way. This is a movie they made. So go watch it. And go get your free, and go check out the Facebook page. There'll be links to 2 of the songs, COVID Sauce and Donald Trump Hates America. Go check those out. Go share them. You know, it's all free. You know, they don't like that free concept, but we do. Free. Just share it. Have a great day. And the most important thing I ever say is, you pedophiles, kill yourself.